All right, welcome to the Great Tren debate on anabolic climbing. We have a number of rock star co-hosts. Obviously, you guys know me. I'm Adam with Anabolic Climbing. If you guys are already familiar with Chris Primo, we did an awesome discussion over all of the cool stuff rock climbers are pinning to climb harder and to heal. We have Josh RN, who has been not only doing everything in his power to mitigate some of the mental side effects of Tren, but has the medical handbook. And of course, you guys know Sean, aka Molecular, on his 3.5-hour compendium of the history of Tren, the effects of Tren. And we brought some of the greatest minds together of trenbolone so that we could have a discussion of, does Tren seem viable for climbing, yes or no? In general, this is a compound that I have never run. I have had a lot of trepidation about running it, mostly because I'm married and also a degenerate, so it seems like a bad use of my life. But the question was, is the neurotoxicity and some of the negative outcomes with Tren something that are mitigated or possible to mitigate for rock climbers? Or is it something where it is a tool that could be effective, but other tools could be safer and more sustainable for us to use instead? So, without any, go for it.
All right, do you guys have like seasons where you're starving yourselves like bodybuilders do, or no?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
So we usually break up our training blocks into 3 types. You'll have a capacity block where you're really just priming yourself for more volume. A strength block where you're trying to get stronger and basically be able to pull harder in various different positions. And then a performance, which is basically the equivalent of like your bodybuilding shows, where we're trying to
cardio?
Honestly, pretty important depending on the style. This was one of the things that I try to harp on climbers, that meldonium we saw rock climbers win a comp on. Cardarine, Seladelpar, or am I saying that right, Chris? Seladelpar?
Seladelpar. Yeah, that's probably how I'd say it.
Okay. Along with Matsi and SLU PP332, I've all seen performance boosts with for climbers.
Okay. Yeah, would be the biggest concern with Tren. I think would be the lack of cardio. I mean that could fry you pretty quickly. So I don't know how. I think a lot of people do. I mean,
a lot of
usually anytime you get over like 100 milligrams, your cardio starts to suffer quite a bit. I mean.
So, Chris, what would you say about the cardio impacts? Is that something you notice on the 35 milligram or no?
Of Tren?
Yeah.
So I'm actually on a little bit more than that.
Okay.
I've never run that low. Maybe I was for a very short period of time. But
you're talking about weekly dose or daily?
Weekly.
Okay.
I notice a very significant resting heart rate increase. Cardio doesn't really feel harder, but I don't really do super intense cardio. But my heart rate does get higher, which like makes like what would be zone 2 like zone 3. So I could see that in a competition setting, definitely holding someone back.
What's the zone you're usually in when you're climbing?
Probably zone 3.
So it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it also depends on the style. So just so you guys know, there's 3 styles of climbing as it relates to competition. You'll have bouldering, which is no ropes. Moves are really, really hard on average, but there are few of them, usually less than 15. Then you will have sport climbing, which goes up to around 40 to 50 feet in competition. And you could be doing anywhere from 25 to 40 moves. And the moves are easier because there's more volume, but it's more taxing the higher you go. And then there's speed climbing, which is the same route every single time. And folks try to get up the wall in essentially under 5 seconds. I think the current world record is like 4.6 or 4.67 seconds. Ooh. So those are what you'd see in competition. And in general, if you're just climbing outside, there's also a style called traditional climbing, where you'll put your own protection or pieces of protection in the rock as you go up.
Okay, so I guess then, if you're not always necessary, like you can take a break, right? So you can just hang there. Is there anything deleterious, like with just hanging there?
If you're in competition, you'll probably lose. But if you're just an enthusiast doing stuff for funsies...
so if you're in a competition, you can't just chill there for a minute and catch your breath?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, they drug test it, but like the only people they ever test are the first and second place people. So it would be... It's very hard to get caught doping in rock climbing.
Get to the near top and just throw the guys up so they have to go first. That's what Tren will help you do. You can really grab your partner and just lock them.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like long term, the left ventricular remodeling is particularly nasty with Tren. So that's a concern. That'll over time reduce your cardiovascular capacity substantially. So there's that. I mean, if you block MR, you can probably get away with it to some degree and keep your cardio up. So I don't know if it's something especially like even long-term lower doses might be a concern for anybody, you know, that's interested in maintaining their cardiovascular capacity to the highest degree, obviously. So that would be my... Also the nitric oxide, like vessel stiffening from progestins, too.
Okay.
So there's a concern there, obviously. So, like, that, you know, that might slow things down a little bit. I think anytime you have a progestin, you have that nitric oxide reduction, which can lower your cardiovascular capacity. I think we see this with nandrolone a little bit too.
Interesting.
Specifically, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be like what we're saying here. Kind of almost rules it out as like a competition compound, just because of the cardio effects and how important we know cardio is for rock climbing. I think in application, like if I were to argue for any application, it would be during like a period of caloric restriction, if nothing else. And you don't necessarily like you can come off before the competition.
I would
allow
like it
your
all
cardio to recover, and that would probably be its best use case for climbing. If I had to put a suggestion,
I'd agree. Also, the tendons are an issue.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get into the specifics before we move over to tendons. It sounds like we're both or all four of us are in agreement that off season it probably doesn't make sense because it doesn't really seem to do much for the tendons. It seems to be best in caloric restrictions.
I would say Tren is great for strength.
Yeah, but
that's true.
So like it's ridiculously good for strength.
But the question is, are there other tools?
How much strength you need? You know what I mean?
Well, the other question is, are there other tools that could do it better without some of the limitations? So we're gonna. So, okay. If I overclock my strength too quickly, there is a risk of tendon issues, particularly with some of the issues around Tren tending to be more AR or being more having a higher affinity rate for the AR versus the ER and taking that position. Limiting the estrogenic expression in the tendons isn't something that, Sean, you specifically mentioned, but given how it seems to behave systemically, I would extrapolate that Tren probably does limit some of the estrogenic expression in the tendon as well, which is one of the precursors for collagen synthesis.
Is there estrogen receptor alpha in tendons, or?
I believe so.
Yeah, and then there's probably no beta, I would think.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. So we have ERA receptors in tendons.
Beta is
so they
pro-collagen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, I would assume. I don't know anything about tendons, so
I'd have to double check on whether or not
I would assume
ERA or ERB.
But so it could be the tendons could obviously you could have squelching happen.
I think there's a pretty simple answer for that though. Like you could just use exogenous estradiol concurrently with the Tren, and that would provide more estrogenic support against an anti-estrogen signal.
Yep.
So I think that like it's a valid concern, but at the same time, I feel like that specific concern is extremely treatable.
Yeah, you'd have to take more though, because it doesn't really matter what's happening at the receptor; it's stealing the coactivators that are stopping protein expression. So
let's set a baseline for a climber guy though. So like let's assume he's going to be on TRT, and then climbers would take like 5 IUs of GH if it's off season, because it's the only time we'd want to use the Tren. Is that what we're talking about? Or
yeah, I'd probably say climbers would use anywhere between 3 to 6 IUs depending on what discipline they're doing.
Okay.
But you're not running growth into a competition. No, that'd be heavier.
Right. Yeah, you'd probably pull the growth at least a week out.
Are we using how dry do we need to be? Are we using diuretics? Obviously we want estrogen to be high, but we want tendons to be strong, so it's a fine balance here with water balance, right?
So I've never used diuretics. I do think that it's super applicable, and it's something that is not explored. I try to pull a lot of what I think would be effective from the PED side from gymnastics, and gymnasts rock diuretics all day. So yeah, I do think that diuretics are super applicable to climbing.
But very easy to get yourself in trouble.
Yes, especially if you're outside, that could be a really big issue.
pretty concerned about like joint hydration too. Like the positions you see some of these climbers in is like you want to have fluid around your joints. I wouldn't want to suck all the water out of my body.
But 5 pounds off your weight, I mean, it's a lot extra power.
It depends on how YOLO you're willing to be.
Well,
I think Sheldon makes a good point.
It also makes you stronger, intramuscular water. So that's another thing. I mean, maybe I'm not a professional climber, but I feel like that's a target I wouldn't want to mess with just because of how it affects strength. And it's a marginal, like, the strength you lose from losing the water is probably similar to the weight you're like. It's going to be probably a net equal effect if I had to guess.
Given that we've seen countless gymnasts get gold medals on diuretics, I am hesitant to agree with the premise. I think that diuretics in some degree of use could be a net positive, but whether or not an individual is ready to take that particular lever, hydrochlorothiazide is the thing that I've seen most commonly.
Well, look at it this way, I guess. Like, just as gym bros, I guess we could, whenever you're fluffy and kind of watery, try to do a pull-up, and then when you're dry, try to do a pull-up. And even though you're weaker, it's going to feel easier because extra weight on your body makes such a huge difference.
That is true.
So, but again, like Chris was saying, I mean, there's a concern with tendon integrity, and then also, if you're cramping while you're trying to go up a wall, when you fall off because your calf cramps in the middle of it, like, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, Lasix is off the table.
For sure.
But like, a little hydrochlorothiazide, if you can manage your electrolytes properly, especially if it's hot, you need to be very, very careful. And you need to know how you react to those things prior to the competition, like a bodybuilder would do or anybody else. But I think you could definitely like get away with it. But it's like, how risk averse are you at the end of the day? Like,
I feel like
if you cramp up on a wall, like you might eat shit, right?
Yeah. I think if you're already up for running Tren, I feel like hydrochlorothiazide is not that big of a reach. But yeah, maybe that's me.
Well, people put all diuretics in the same bucket, and they don't understand that hydrochlorothiazide is like a blood pressure medication. I mean, they're all blood pressure medications.
Sure.
At the end of the day. But, it's not in the same
they're all heart failure
risk
medications
category.
too, if you want to be like...
Yeah.
So that's the way that I'd see it. But I think it's, you're getting into that zone where you really need to know what you're doing. And most climbers, like,
HCTZ is like a
bodybuilders can't even get it right, So...
Yeah, again, just for the audience, really everything that we're talking about is hypothetical, and you probably shouldn't do anything discussed in this video. But moving on, I am just going to sort of reiterate, I don't think it makes sense from an off-season perspective. I think that there are other things, like in an off-season, there are other ways to drive strength that are also tendon protective. Like if I was going to use a 19 NOR in the off-season, I'd probably go nandrolone for two reasons.
Never used nandrolone. Never in my life.
Well, here's the reason that I would run nandrolone over Tren as a climber. Number one, in the off-season, right? I don't need to be as light as possible. The additional water weight is potentially helpful. Number two, the only PED that I know outside of growth hormone that makes some pretty decent-looking tendons outside of, like, Anavar. As far as the injectables go, that's probably the move. You could also benefit from gaining the additional water weight. So then when you flush it going into your performance phase, you can get a major level up off of that too. So I just think that nandrolone makes more sense if I'm going to choose a 19 NOR in the off season. And it also isn't going to upregulate my strength as dramatically or aggressively versus Tren, which I think is probably safer for the fingers.
Have you found you've needed to run run your E2 a little bit lower while you're using nandrolone?
I never ran nandrolone long enough for me to really have that issue. Initially, and I'm going to sort of change my philosophy this year a little bit, but initially I was trying to watch the scale to some extent, and I basically got on nandrolone and GH, and within like 2 weeks I bumped up like 10 pounds, and I was like, Jesus. And when you do that, I can tread water on the wall, so I'm not going to be climbing any higher grades, but I can kind of match what I'm up to. And then when I flush the water, you'll see me go up a grade or two.
Yep. Okay. I don't fully, and this is something we've talked about too, Adam. I don't fully accept the notion that Tren is terrible for tendons.
Sure.
I think that's sort of like an extrapolation from like AAS literature overall. Like we don't have any direct data saying Tren is going to adversely affect tendon remodeling, especially if you're actually loading the tendons correctly, like we were talking about.
Yep.
Especially combined with something like GH, the increased like fibroblast, or however you say it, FGF growth factor, and IGF-1 in the muscle can actually improve healing outcomes at the tendon-muscle junction, which is a part of why it increases strength so good as well. So I think if you're using something like HGH and GHKCU and other collagen supporting stuff and you're loading correctly, I don't think it's really like, aside from the estrogen thing, you also need to make sure you're getting enough estrogen.
Of course.
I think if you're running Tren, it makes sense to run exogenous E2 just because of the anti-estrogenic effects. I think
it's hard to measure.
I think under that context, it is probably not as detrimental as it might seem at first glance.
So you're the first person to mention that it increases GH expression in fibroblasts. Do you want to elaborate on that just so everyone else is aware?
Yeah. So, it increases FGF.
Okay.
So fibroblast growth factor on a cellular level. This is in cell models, I believe. It upregulates muscle satellite cell function. So
this is one of the reasons it's so hard on the heart, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, because heart is cardiac muscle is also muscle. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to have a systemic effect, and that applies to where the tendon attaches to the muscle. And especially if you're upregulating collagen with something like GH, it's going to be a very supported healing environment, I believe, provided estrogen. You also have estrogen, like, because we were saying the androgen piece can take away from estrogen's benefits. So that's does that make sense? Any kind of thoughts there?
Mechanistically, it makes sense. Sean, go for it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The only concern I think with Tren is PRA transdominantly represses ER as well. So you have like any time, and that's kind of also with Nandrolone or men, you have this same concern. I just looked. I couldn't find any research that shows that PRA is expressed in tendons, but we know PR is expressed in tendons. Which version of that it is, I don't know. But it is possible that you're getting some suppression of estrogen signaling in tendons as well. I don't know. Kind of a concern with the squelching. I don't think the I4 promoter necessarily hits tenocytes, but it's
no one's looked. It's never looked. I double checked that prior to us getting on. No one's asked the question if the I4 promoter hits tendons at all. No one's thought to ask the question.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been studied in adipose and breast tissue, but it hasn't been. I don't think it's really. It's not very. It's a niche thing to begin with, so there's not a lot of data on it. But yeah, that transdominant repression of PRA, is a concern because PRB, increases, I guess, estrogen signaling to a degree, and PRA represses it. And which isoform is present in tendons, or which is dominant in tendons, defines how PR operates in those cells. So there's a concern there potentially, but it really just depends on the expression, because Tren has no preference for PRA over PRB. So there's that, I guess. But who knows? So that's another question mark that we have. I think we can talk all day about it until somebody wants to climb and run 400 milligrams of Tren. We're not really going to know until someone snaps their shit up, right?
So
at the end of the day. So.
I do know climbers that do take Tren. I know climbers that have climbed on 70 milligrams of Tren without injury issue and have gotten strong as shit. So there is some anecdotal data floating out there in my community. The other part is like, because you can't measure the squelching or the limited expression in blood work, it's also even more difficult to figure out how much supplemental E2 you would, or estradiol you would need to pin to offset, because you have no benchmark to be able to figure out in one way or the other what direction you'd want to go. And if you're already pairing something like Test and Tren with Mastron, then who the fuck knows? And even if you're pairing it with something like Primo as your secondary to Test, it's still, you don't know how much estrogen signaling you're squelching.
That's true, and that's a good point. I think the sensible thing is as much as you can tolerate, especially if you're prioritizing collagen. Like,
sure.
At a certain point, you're going to grow titties, you know? Like, you'll know when you get to that point.
Yeah.
You can... I think, honestly, that's a pretty good metric of your systemic androgen-estrogen balance. Like, when you grow titties, you're probably pushing it a little too far. In this context, and also in, like, an HRT context. In a bodybuilder context, they're running so much stuff, they better have gyno surgery because they're going to need more estrogen, and they're going to get titties from the amount of estrogens they should have. So...
and for climbers, it might make sense to drop if you got, 500 grams of tissue down there, get it taken out, you'll be stronger, you'll be better on the wall.
True, you could very easily lose some weight just by getting gyno surgery. That is
especially if
200
it's
IQ move. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, another concern is disinhibition while you're climbing a wall.
Yep.
True.
So maybe you want to have a clear head.
So
while
this
you're
is
doing this.
I'm really glad you brought this up. If there are any soloists out there, I feel like soloists and high-risk behavior sort of go together like peanut butter and jelly. And yeah, some of the disinhibition on Tren could be very problematic for very obvious reasons. Yeah.
Or fun, yeah, or it's a party. Or you just, kill it, or you die.
I was going to say, I'm either going to be a beast or I'm going to be a puddle.
Yeah, I want to see, one of those free... I don't know how you feel about the free climber guys, but a free climber on Tren would be crazy insane.
If Dean Potter was still alive, watching Dean Potter on Tren would have been fucking insane. Or Brad Gobright, R.I.P., would have been very interesting to see someone with that level of autism. You want to see on Tren.
Yeah.
He's not a free soloist, but there is a legend by the name of Chris Sharma. He's getting into his late 40s, and I want to juice this dude so hard. It would be so fucking cool to get him on TRT, maybe some Tren, and just see what you could do as a guy that's been crushing for basically 40 years and watch what he could do with a little bit more test and a little more muscle. That would be so fun.
Is he like the Michael Jordan of climbing?
Of his era, he was the GOAT. Adam Andra has done things that I have not seen any other climber do. This guy flashes V15 consistently, flashes 15A consistently. This is inconceivable, genuinely. To be able to just show up to a climb, bottom up, basically 3 grades easier than the hardest shit that's ever been climbed. Also, I think he put up one of the first 15Ds that has never been repeated. Adam Andra is a legend. And Chris Sharma would belong on a climbing Mount Rushmore, but he's not quite to the Andra level, in my opinion.
That's where the beauty of, I think, PEDs really lives, is not in the average Joe, because the average Joe usually can't, in any sport, even if you give them PEDs. And we saw this with the enhanced games.
Yep.
It just makes them, more... It makes them better than they were, but they're still not going to be world class. They still don't have those genetics. So the beauty of PEDs is giving a guy that is already the dopest in the game some drugs and being go make it even better.
Yeah, like LeBron James.
That's the most fun, I think.
So
that's the Nick Walkers of the world, or whatever it is. Giving those guys drugs is just incredible because you get to see the peak of human performance, basically.
So to give you an idea of what an absolute monster Chris Sharma is, Alex Honnold has never climbed 515. Alex Honnold, legendary free soloist, maybe the greatest free soloist of all time. Certainly,
is that the guy that climbed the building? And yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
We watched that, dude. I was like, I could not watch it.
Yeah.
I had to turn it off.
And Chris Sharma, so Honnold has never climbed 515, and Sharma at like age 19, having climbed 2 years, was already climbing 515. Like that's what an absolute mutant Chris Sharma is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys are they just born with like insane pulling musculature?
I believe there's something to do with the angle of like their finger insertions that is just preferable for leverage.
Were their fathers hobbits?
I don't know what. No, some of them are just pro climbers.
Because the fingers would be like perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of their parents are
You
pro
want
climbers.
shorter, small hands, right?
It depends. Like we've
think
seen
you're
really
grabbing
tall
them.
climbers, really short climbers, like very dynamic climbers, very static climbers. There are all sorts of just absolute legends in the sport. There's this dude who you might have seen actually named Yves Graval, who's like 5'3", 5'4". He's fucking jacked, dude. He's like 155 pounds. And it's like, it's all forearms. Like this dude's forearms are like out to here. And he can pull like 200 pounds on a 10 mil edge, which is so inconceivable. I can't even tell you how fucking crazy that is. I could barely pull 150 on a 20 mil. So for him to do 200 on a 10 is just baffling. He could hang on like, I think he could one arm hang on like a 3 mil edge. Like he's just fucking ungodly strong. I'm not entirely sure if he's natty or not. I could very easily see him on the sauce. But that dude can climb fucking V16. Like he's an absolute savage. There are other dudes that weigh like 185 that climb V17. Like
So there's no consistent body type.
No.
What you're saying kind of makes me think of another reason why Tren might not be good.
Okay.
And also maybe diuretics by extension, because a lot of it, like especially with those short edges, it's like you need to have enough fluid in your fingers, right? Like that's something that's really
Maybe.
important. Like I could see that hurting.
maybe for grip?
Well, yeah, I mean, if like, because Tren
A little
makes
fatter is what I'm thinking.
I
A
see what
little
you're
fatter
saying.
on the finger?
Well, because Tren makes you like lose water, right? Because of its
Yeah.
anti-estrogenic effect. So if your joints aren't as lubricated, if your fingers aren't, then I could see that being detrimental to training. And it's not necessarily like, I mean, I don't know. You can tell me, Adam, but that's not really like a training, a negative training adaptation, as it is like an acute injury-prone situation that you're putting yourself in.
I can see that. Especially for like an off-season context, I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
In general, my off-seasons tend to be wetter for obvious reasons, and I've never had an issue when my hands swell up a little bit from like some GH edema. Actually, one of my favorite experiments that I ran, I let my edema in my hands get ridiculous on purpose and just got 15% bigger hands. And there's a style of climbing called crack climbing where you put your hand in a crack and then enlarge it to form a constriction point. And yeah, you could just hand jam shit you couldn't hand jam before because your fists are bigger. It's so fun.
We have a reason to use Tren and too much GH. All right.
Yeah.
That's funny. I like this.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
savage.
It's
I like that
crazy
shit.
because like, it's my brain is like hurting from this because it's like trying to apply this to something I'm not used to applying it to. You know.
For what it's
Yeah,
worth, you could probably apply, like, you could probably give some of the best athletes in the world Tren, and it would be very interesting to see what would happen. I think for some of the outliers, they would get stronger and perform better no matter what you gave them.
What about no ester? What about Tren no ester?
This is a debate that I actually put in the discussion. The question, like, I could see it being viable, but is it better than test? Like, is there a reason that I would choose Tren no ester over test no ester,
Yes.
test base? Why?
Tren no
Void
ester
it.
can
Void
make you
yesterday.
very crazy.
If you're on
It's a
a
contest.
5AR inhibitor, you wouldn't get the benefits from test no ester, or as much benefits,
Okay.
because you're losing the DHT. You don't have the DHT aggression, which is kind of why test no ester is so powerful. I mean, aside from the estrogen and then test itself, the conversion into DHT and the rapid conversion because of no ester is what makes it so mentally powerful, or a part of what makes it so mentally powerful.
Are you
So we
saying
can just use DHT no ester? I never
Yeah.
really thought about that.
There we go.
Good.
That's smart.
No one has that though. I don't know if that exists. I
So
wish.
far.
Let me talk to some friends. We might be able to cook that up.
I'm sure we can find some. I mean, there's
Do we have a DHT
cream
signal
that has
we
no
can put
ester,
up?
right?
What was that?
Well,
The DHT cream is no ester.
That's true. Squirt it under your tongue and no, don't actually do that.
Well, we just
repository, obviously.
Yeah,
just need to get the raws and I probably shouldn't, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Our viewers are smart. They know what's up.
The Grand Maester has spoken, everyone.
You could use DHT Prop though. DHT Prop exists.
Yeah.
Probably. I could see that. And that's another thing because you've said aggression actually does help with climbing,
Yes.
Adam. So I think DHT Prop would probably be a little bit more stable than Tren no ester and also a little bit safer. So I can
Less
see an
concerned
argument
with the
being made.
cardiovascular effects too.
Yeah.
Acutely, so.
Yeah.
Especially like if you hammer Tren no ester, I think that's where the PRA reduction in nitric oxide really starts to hit you hard. I've done that before. I've done like high rep squats and just I can't do it. I've topped out, and that's like above and beyond any like cardiovascular or heart like remodeling directly. That's just literally like acute like lack of nitric oxide and like blood vessel stiffness. Which of course like if you take enough tadalafil and telmisartan, you can probably like
Work through. But yeah. Dude, I would, if you took too much tadalafil, I'd imagine some of the pumps on like longer routes would be brutal. I don't really have...
Well, that's another good point too, is like the pumps might get in the way.
Yeah.
So you can't run too much because you're going to get pumped, especially like climbing is literally a high rep work.
So if you're bouldering, it's not that bad, and I haven't had issues pumping out when you only have to do like 6 to 8 moves. It's not a big deal. But yeah, if you put me on a route that has like 30 moves, I come down just with the craziest looking forearms. It's awesome.
Yeah. So that would be a huge concern is the pumps too. So you might have to manage your electrolytes very carefully if you're going to plan on. But yeah, what I would say with the Tren thing is like you could probably get away with it around like 20-30 milligrams.
Yeah.
Just for like a little extra strength, little extra mental drive. But again, we can replace the mental drive with test no ester or DHT no ester.
Or even just DHTs,
YouTube
man.
videos.
Like, that's the other part, right? Like, the real question at the bottom of this is, could Tren be viable? Sure. Is it more viable versus just adding another, like, 150 to 200 milligrams of, like, test and mast, or, like, primo, or, like, even just upping your anavar dose or throwing in some turinabol? Like, I could understand in a deficit finding a place for 20 to 30 milligrams of Tren, and then pulling that, if you ran Tren Ace, and then pulling it a week or two prior to your red point to be able to get more of your cardio back so that you're getting ready.
Right.
But yeah, you could also just as easily replace it with test and mast and not have to deal with any of the other side effects that are Tren specific. And yeah, I love training on test and mast. It certainly does the job.
I really think Tren's unique ability is in body composition.
Yep.
So unless you're an athlete that specifically needs that, which most athletes don't, it's probably kind of useless.
And the cosmetic effect, and that's what makes this conversation so much more complicated. Like when your one variable is how good do you look, it's very easy to say, oh, this drug makes you look better. Like that's literally all you need to worry about. You know?
Up the trend.
Whereas this conversation, there is so much more on the table. Like there's collagen, there's how water retention, water excretion is going to affect you, how your mental state is. Like for bodybuilding, it's almost like people pride themselves in like being totally screwed for a prep, and because that's just it's almost accepted. Like you're going to be starving, it's going to suck.
Yeah,
like,
well, no, the thing about the pro bodybuilding thing is they take stuff that makes it, they're going to be even hungrier. They're like, I'm going to up my T3, I'm going to take Clen, I'm going to up my Tren. So they take in all these extra things to make them even more hungry. And then they're wondering why they're hungry.
Yeah.
Well,
Like the natural
you're gonna be
guys
hungry if
have
you're not
hunger,
eating.
but they don't complain as much because they just used to not eating that much, and they don't have like their body like revving up everything around them. So it's kind of interesting.
The other part is like a lot of pro climbers sort of live between the body weight of 125 to 140 pounds. There are exceptions where they get from like 165 to 180, but most pro climbers live in that like 125 to 140 range.
Jesus.
And how much more, like at a certain point, I do think that Tren would probably put some of those dudes, if they were exposed to it for the first time, would probably blow up more than they wanted to. Like, I could imagine putting some of these guys on like a TRT or even like a slight TRT plus and keep them in like
it's called a
the
cycle.
one.
It's not TRT plus. It's called a cycle.
If you put what I mean by TRT plus is like 180, right? Like, yeah, it might be slightly above your TRT dose, even technically within range. But a lot of these guys would probably want to live in like 100 or like the 80 to 120 milligram range. And throwing Tren on top of that might be too potent for what their goals are.
Well, I mean, the nitrogen retention is a concern because it's like, when you don't want to retain nitrogen. The whole point is to retain less nitrogen.
Yep.
But be strong at the same time, and like it's just extra weight at the end of the day. So,
there is one way I think Tren shines, and that is like lifestyle proofing your musculature.
Yep.
Like, if there's a week where you just for whatever like maybe you're moving across the country or something, you're not able to train, you're not able to eat as much, you're not able to stay dialed in. Like, I mean, that's what they use it on cows for, like long transport, or like, I mean, shit happens in everyone's lives. If you're on something that is going to make it almost impossible for your muscles to go anywhere,
steroids are designed
like that's something like that's what Tren is. Like, they literally use it on cows for that purpose. So
you could become an alcoholic for like a year and take Tren and maintain your physique.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
You can do a bodybuilding competition with 24 beers a night.
Yeah, lifestyle proofing is a good point, Chris. Yeah, I think that is actually, especially in the off season for these climbers, maybe, something that could be there for the more casual guy or the guy that doesn't want to spend, all the time training and
exactly.
So something there for sure, but. Tren for a casual guy is a funny sentence, obviously. But,
it is.
Casual
Tren
user here,
and it's not like. That's not the thing that people like. The thing Tren does the best is not what the climbers value the most. Also, because it lifestyle proofs not just your musculature but also your physique. Like, you can sort of be like, you can kind of be lazy and still look great in a way, using it. Which is, for someone who wants to look the best, obviously that's a huge plus. For a climber, it's like, well, that's not really the point of it, anyways. So that's something else to be said, I think.
It's valid.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into some of this, or how prevalent are the sleep issues on 35 milligrams?
Not really.
They don't
exist.
exist.
Most people are fine.
Yeah, I say bodybuilders that are like saying, "Oh, I don't do Tren," you're gonna see them take 5 or 10 milligrams a week or a day, and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
As long as you have lumbarexin, there's not much that can.
If you have the prescription, you're.
You can go as high as you want with limbo and not really have an issue. Unless you're in a calorie deficit, and you've got other compounding factors like clen in there.
Sure.
It really is high. The dose kind of. At no point are you going to overwhelm limbo with it, so you can go as high as you want. Not really a concern for sure at this point. I think we have the technology now.
Right. We're about to trend.
Do we want to? How, as far as some of the sexual deviancy, do you find that really happening at like the low doses, or not really?
For me, I'm not a deviant. I'm like a honest family man, but I do get like a little extra freaky when I take 30. But I've never been the type of person to like fly to Thailand and have a party.
Different strokes for different folks.
Not for me, but I definitely notice my sex drive increasing. Like, even at 30, for sure.
Chris, even in comparison, thing, right? Hold on, before we switch over to Chris, even comparison to other anabolics?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like way stronger.
Cool.
Yeah, like immediately up. It's the only two things that do it for me that are that powerful are DHT, Tren, and HCG.
I can see.
Write this down, everybody. Yeah, HCG I can see for sure.
I've mentioned on HCG that I become like a ravenous monster. Like, I had COVID and I could barely walk, and I was still need it.
Yeah. So I mean that's funny. Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it definitely you definitely know it's working. But it's the same thing with other anabolics, and I don't recommend anybody do this, but I've ran lower doses of Tren for very long periods of time, and it's trashed my brain. But I will say that sex drive goes away just like any other anabolic.
Interesting.
So that's something to keep in mind. I think a lot of it is the progesterone signaling.
Sex drive goes away, you said, or you like goes up?
It goes away over time. Like if you're on Tren for say 8 months, like it's not going to feel like the first day that you got on ACE or something. It's going to kind of go down.
Like since like June.
Yeah. And then the big concern is like when you inevitably have to come off Tren, then you turn into like a eunuch essentially for like the coming months, which is really annoying too. Because you've been upregulated for so long, and then you come. It's something that people don't talk a lot about.
Come down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but if you got a wife, she's like, "What's wrong with me?" It's like, "No, I just came off Tren." It's completely, try to explain that to her. So.
I didn't really love you that much. It was really just the Tren saying, "Take her."
Really just,
take her.
So, anyways, kind of a weird thing, but I think over time that sort of goes away. But I think it's probably the progesterone signaling. Have you guys ever taken progesterone before?
No.
Synchronized?
Not on purpose, no.
Really?
Went by accident.
Oh, it's a trip, man. If you take enough, it's...
We never
Were you on
talk
Duke
about
when
that
you
part of
took
Tren.
progesterone, Sean? Or were you? Did you? Okay, so
No, it's
if you're on a 5AR inhibitor, like using progesterone's kind of futile because you lose the biggest benefit from taking the progesterone.
For sure. But it does. Progesterone does increase it makes you kind of. It's like a horny benzo, almost. That's
How would you say it compares to allopregnanolone?
It's not as strong.
Okay.
It's not as strong. But if you take enough of it, it's you get a sizable amount of aloe, I think, and it can be pretty good. But like it's not going to match like 100 milligrams of allopregnanolone ester, even like 200 milligrams of micronized progesterone. So and that's going to be oral though too. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. But something that I noticed with allopregnanolone that I don't notice with progesterone. And you can really only play this game, by the way, if you have your glands removed. So anybody listening, don't try to play this game if you have any breast tissue, because you will start lactating if you do this a few days in a row. But something I do notice with progesterone specifically increases your sex drive a lot, and allopregnanolone doesn't.
Yeah.
So try to figure out that one. I don't know. I think it's just the PR agonism directly does something strange to our sex, especially as males that aren't used to super physiological PR signaling. And I've noticed with Tren specifically that like the same feeling I get when I take a ton of progesterone, like 300 milligrams of progesterone, I get that same feeling when I'm on Tren. It's like the libido.
PR agonism, we know in females, it decreases the sexual selection instinct. Like it makes them not as selective. And this is, part of this research is in animal models, where it was shown that synthetic PR agonists made it so they were more receptive to advances from the male rats without as much of like a selection instinct.
And isn't it great that we give women birth control
Yep.
and then make them less selective? It's like kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Like it's like maybe if you just didn't take the birth control, you wouldn't be fucking everybody. You know what I mean? Like
well, it's like
I'm super. No, man. I'm super liberal. I'm all about like, look, you live your truth, queen. If you want to go out there,
that's fine. But it's a funny step is what.
No, so hold on a second. To your point,
Pause. Is Sean saying that we give them this drug that makes them want to have more sex and they don't have any more kids?
yeah,
I'm saying it's a win-win,
like it's working
dude.
as intended.
yeah,
it's a win-win, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's like maybe you wouldn't. And now this is not a moral judgment. I am apolitical. This is specifically a health-based judgment that maybe you just shouldn't be on birth control. Maybe you should just, not do that because it's not good for you. Birth control is really bad for you.
Well,
Yeah, there are
I'll
other
go.
ways,
Well,
other methods.
what I would say is what's really cruel about the whole thing is if you're becoming less selective sexually and you inevitably come off birth control, which might tighten up your selection bias after you already have a partner, and that could change how you view your partner that you have spent this time investing in when you were less selective, and you might no longer feel like you want to select him anymore. That's
Absolutely.
fucked.
And this
Kinda
is
like
an
Joe
interesting
Hartwig's
thing
Monster.
that like when you have super physiological PR signaling in a man or a woman, you shut down allopregnanolone. And when you try to replace that signaling via serotonin, it doesn't work. So that is completely because serotonin upregulates 3-alpha HSD, right? So it doesn't, the antidepressants don't even work. So you're sad, but the standard you're sad pill doesn't do anything. And like the birth control data out of Denmark is stark. It's horrible. The risk of suicide goes up so much, and the risk of succeeding goes up. So not only do the women themselves more often on these drugs, but they get better at doing it. They want to die more. That's terrifying. Like, I just don't think progestins, not good for anyone. That's how I see it.
As far as
they work
trend
great
goes,
as birth control, but they're not good. They do bad things for both sexes.
We're going to have to censor some of these parts of this for YouTube monetization, but I do think that this is an important conversation worth having.
Yeah, that's my concern. Is like, I didn't know you were monetized. I'm sorry.
I'm not. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, that's my concern. Is just like it's progestin signaling. Like super physiological progestin signaling is bad on both sexes. It's hard on both of us, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a concern. I think there's better ways to, at least if you're going to give a woman a super physiological progestin, you should throw in some estradiol, some bioidentical estradiol in there to kind of even things out. Because otherwise, it's like, they'll give them, estradiol analogs, but that don't necessarily fulfill the same physiological roles.
I still haven't had the chance to look into this. But if I were to just take a guess, if the people had any idea what they were doing, maybe it's possible that replacing bioidentical estradiol actually rescues their normal fertility cycle, and that's why they don't replace.
Oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So then they just are stupid. Okay.
Yeah, they're
that's actually crazy.
By the way, like, women have been getting the proverbial shaft and also kind of literal shaft as it relates to birth control. Like, some of the mental hurdles that they have to deal with is
healthcare.
Yeah.
Because
the fact that it hasn't been
dudes
redesigned,
making this stuff. Yeah. It's dudes making this stuff, and they're just like, "Here you go, honey. Take this. Have fun." And it's like they don't have any frame of reference for how that feels or what happens. We as bodybuilders do. We have Tren. We have men. We have progestins, and we know how they operate. Yeah, but the average person making these drugs has no idea how being on a progestin feels.
I did want to say, as a male nurse, I like bodybuilders because they're like nurses. They talk about their hormones and food, and that's basically it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also can pin things very consistently without after years of practice.
So I didn't mean for this to be a birth control rant. Also, I'm pretty sure Tren was used as the morning after pill.
Wait, for real?
Yeah,
I believe
have some potentially. I don't know. I heard through the grapevine through a guy that heard from a guy, both reliable guys, that I think they might have trialed it on a couple women as the morning after.
You might know the same guy.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
By the way, obligatory women should never use Tren, ever. Literally fucking ever. Unless you're trying the transition, in which case live your truth.
Almost no one should use Tren, except me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Almost
clearly it works for me.
I honestly, I did not find sexual deviancy to be like a problem through my Tren use.
Were you enjoying the deviancy, or
no? It just hasn't really, it's made me, I think, have more desire, but it hasn't really, the desire is still the same. It's still expressed the same.
I think the deviancy starts to kick in around 200, 300. I think that's where
fair.
I've
never been above 105 per week.
You can extrapolate, how high your libido is on how much are you right now?
105.
So extrapolate how high your libido is now on 105, and then quadruple that. That's it's when you're on 500, that can turn into deviancy pretty quickly.
Yeah,
because
I can see that.
There's so much I need to go do this thing that you kind of it goes south quick. So that's kind of to put it in perspective, at least what it feels like to be on higher doses, I guess.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah. But yeah. So, anyways, birth controls, at least the progestin birth controls, they're pretty bad, and a lot of the old ones are androgenic too. I've mentioned this many times, but they're 19 nortestosterone drugs.
Oh.
They're nortestosterone steroid. Like these birth controls are identical. Like the progestin, the old ones, they're identical. You look at it next to Tren, and they look relatively similar.
We need to have a conversation about this at some point because, in general, eating disorders are a thing that I see very commonly in the climbing space, and a lot of teens are also getting on birth control around that time. So I would be curious to see what other mechanisms are fucking these poor girls that are just like going through puberty, getting their hormones pulled in like 9 different directions.
By the way, blood clots, increased risk of blood clots in a lot of these synthetic estrogens. I mean, there was an old birth control that was tied to cervical cancer in the daughters of women who took it. I mean, it's just there's a lot of stuff that's kind of all bad about these things. I think if they gave you bioidentical estradiol and they gave you a little bit of allopregnanolone with it, I think you could probably get away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as bad, but of course, like that's not how medicine works. They give you one drug at a time. It's never,
it's
take
crazy.
a little bit of this to replace this, and
It totally limits how comprehensive we can make treating side effects of drugs. Like, it's almost like when you're designing the drug, you should be thinking about what are we going to mix it with to make it work better.
Especially if they're endogenous hormones that you're losing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if you're... It should almost be common sense that if you're going to suppress an endogenous hormone and then restoring that endogenous hormone isn't going to diminish the goal of the drug, then you should be replacing the endogenous hormone as well. Yeah. Which is, it's crazy that the system doesn't work like that. Hopefully things will change at some point.
Yeah, and we have to look into this now that I think about it, because I think there's got to be data on allopregnanolone in women taking birth control, and couldn't find it.
It would make more sense to replace progesterone, I think, because then you're restoring it at the exact point where it's being suppressed.
That's
and
true,
your body would regulate it better that way. Or even pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is a dietary supplement.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, either or I think could work pretty well.
All right.
So for any female,
for my two women subscribers, this has been a treat for you.
Right. Yeah, but it's the boyfriends, right? It's the boyfriends, and that are nerds about this stuff. That we can tell our girls, hey, this is a better way to do things. If you're going to be on birth control, you can add in some stuff to make it a little more manageable from a side effect perspective.
For what it's worth, I have, for whatever reason, 10% female following on Instagram. I have no idea why.
Wow.
But
you want to know how much mine is?
3%.
It's like 0.01.
Wow.
Dude, yeah, every reel I check, it's like 99.5% male. I'm like, okay. I mean, well, the stuff we talk about
you'd be pretty
really
for
only...
guys.
Yeah, I did have one female IFBB person follow me, which was really cool recently.
And something that I really want to get more into is doing female hormone stuff, but it's just overwhelming, and I know how to do the male side of things, but when women ask me questions, and every once in a while I get one, I'm just like, dude, I don't know, I have no idea.
I would love to get us all back together to do an endocrine system restart, particularly for gals, because, like I said, eating disorders are rampant in the sport. And, it could take over 9 months for climbers, or for female climbers, rather, to get their endocrine systems back online. And, obviously there are some mechanisms that you could pull, like some DHEA, assuming it's not too much so that they don't viralize. You could up the omega-3s so that can give them some fuel to restart the endocrine system. Maybe some HCG. But... this is just something within the climbing community.
DHEA, I guess, need to start,
But the short answer is climbers are still trying to figure out how to pick up the fork. And, I try to tell a lot of the parents of these teen climbers that I talk to, hey, if you want to figure out if your kid is fucked or not, start with blood work. Figure out where their hormones are at, see if their LH or FSH are suppressed, and then go from there. But
if you're not eating, you're not going to perform well You
Yeah.
have to. You're with especially if you're natural with crashed hormones, you're not going to perform well at all.
Yeah, you'll have like a week or two where you're kicking ass and taking names, but especially if you're a female, you're going to pay for it for months, and it's not worth it. For a dude, you might be able to
I can
recover.
reference more than
Or a
Yeah.
bikini girl. If you're a bikini girl, it's all right because you don't have to climb a wall.
True.
yeah. Just read the science of contest prep, and that's what you'll see what you're doing to your body when you start trying to lose weight as a natural and go crazy.
Yeah.
You know who actually is pretty knowledgeable, as far as I know, as like with women's hormone stuff?
Lyle McDonald?
Is Todd Lee.
Oh, Todd? Really?
I've seen him speak about it before.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was kind of funny.
I would not expect that. That's hilarious.
No,
Yeah, well, I mean, he has.
Todd started as bikini and stripper coach. Like that was his first group, is women.
And a stripper.
Yeah, he has lots of like. That's who I would refer any female bodybuilder to.
Well, they make the most money of
I
women.
have grown to love Todd so much. He's great, man.
Yeah, no, he's a great women's coach, and his partner is really good. Like business partner is really good, Karina Dawson. And then yeah, she's brilliant. She told me what was the book to read. It's Lyle McDonald's book, the women's book. It will teach you everything you need to know about managing women's hormones and everything in a natural perspective and in dieting and stuff. I highly recommend the book. It's like $100, but you can use his website with the discount codes.
I actually base a lot of the stuff for dieting for naturals and for females off of Lyle McDonald. He's great.
Do you coach women?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I do not. Yeah, no.
That's all I have.
There's more intricacies involved in it. Like if they want to ask me for dieting advice or like in certain directions, like I'll give them like, hey, this is some supplementation that'll make sense. But I've never had a female reach out to me for coaching, and the 3 girls that have shown up in my server, one of them I had to boot because they were trying to do some wildly irresponsible shit, and the other is just like a responsible fly on the wall. But yeah, one of them was like,
every once in a while we'll get like an OnlyFans girl that'll join and try to like farm people out for clicks in the Discord. It's pretty funny.
nah, this girl was
Really?
psycho. She wanted to run like 120 milligrams of Clen and Vyvanse, and I'm like, no, get out.
Clan.
It's like you could do what you want, but you can't do that.
I mean,
here.
you're going to
That's
die.
a lot of Glen.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
150?
120 plus like I think it was
Vyvanse.
20 or 30 milligrams of Vyvanse a day, and I was just like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
She would show up in the server drunk. It was bad.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Fun story.
How did she end? Like, how did you get here, man? What's going on?
dude, I don't like. Initially, she was like, "Hey, I want to do a cycle of nandrolone and anavar," and I'm like, "That seems unhinged. And at these doses, are you a woman?" She's like, "Yes," and I'm like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay a woman?
That was my next question. Yeah. She
Oh,
unfortunately
I've had
couldn't
women
stay in
bring
the
me their
server.
numbers for HRT, and I'm like, well, your transition seems to be going very well. And they're like, what now? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
You gotta tell them,
That's-
man. Because
It's really interesting though. Some women actually do really well on like just low dose tests.
Yeah.
Like they can get jacked and still remain a woman with like
Yeah.
pretty low side effects.
But some
Which
girls,
is,
they start their voice
At 1
drops
milligram a week.
immediately. Yeah, it's weird.
That can
I mean,
happen
it's
as
just
well.
it's so individual specific,
Mhm.
and it's all the boyfriends, man. It's their fault.
The
Because-
boyfriends that
Yeah.
put them on Anavar, or the boyfriends that put them on tamoxifen, or the boyfriends that just...
It's like that's
take
not your
stuff.
boy. Like that's not your homie that you can like just like you're at the gym and you're like,
One,
yeah,
you're
but
not
let's
a
run a
fucking
cycle.
doctor.
You know what I mean? It's
Please.
like that's your girl. Like she's gonna respond very differently than your homie is. You know. What I
So
mean?
to that point, and the reason I don't, so this is both for the gals and for the folks that are considering Tren. You can't really develop an appetite for something you've never had a taste of. So a friend of mine, his wife is going through surgery, and he was like, "Hey, what about Anavar?" And I'm like, technically you could, but if the wife gets into that sort of thing, that's going to be like a thing going forward.
Exactly. Yes, because you won't have a problem at 2.5 milligrams for how long it takes to recover from surgery. You'll be all right. But like, you know, that's the question. Is like once you've had a sip of the devil's nectar, like you're gonna come back, you know,
Yep.
and be like, this was sick. Because like
Same
being
dude.
on androgens is awesome.
It's
like the
a
greatest
common thing
ever.
too, where like women are jealous of how men have these high levels of male hormones. Like
How
you
quickly
almost,
we
it's like
lose
a
weight.
TikTok thing. They're like, oh my god, like I just wish I had like as much testosterone as a man right now. Like this is. So then when they do feel it, it's like, holy shit! Like I'm training 10 times harder. I'm way stronger. I'm recovering way better. Like that in itself is addictive.
Not only that, like, sorry to cut you off. Like, I had a dude in the Discord server who was like, yeah, man, I'm just, like, lifting. I just upped from, like, I'm up on, like, 200 to 300 milligrams of test. And does anyone else feel like this is, like, Molly Light? Like, the music's just hitting harder. I'm having so much more fun in the gym. I'm like, yeah, dude, I get it. Like, the music does sound better.
That's
it is more fun.
My girl asked me, she was like, yeah, what does it feel like to be on testosterone and androgens all the time? I was just like, imagine being on cocaine and feeling awesome all the time. That's what it feels like. Like, I feel great all the time. Like, I never tire. I'm just always, like, ready to go. Yeah, it's I mean, so it's addictive, especially for women that have never had a taste of that.
Especially for Tren, I would argue that it's probably one of the more addictive androgens to get involved in.
Just the cosmetic effect alone is insane. It's like, I mean, Todd said this. It was like overnight when he switched from men to Tren, his physique, like, transformed. Like Sean was saying on the last Tren special we did, it takes all the water out of the place where you don't want it and where it looks bad, and puts it in the place that makes you look better. Like, it makes your muscles, like, and that's literally an acute effect. Like, it doesn't have to even change your composition, which it does extremely well as well, to create an effect that's like, holy shit, I want this forever. So yeah, I definitely agree, Adam.
And just to recap, cardiotoxic, neurotoxic, potentially could make you a little bit less discerning with sexual deviancy. If you are in a committed relationship, it could add some additional barriers there. So look, Tren is powerful as fuck. It has downsides that are super obvious. Could you put it, just to sort of recap, right?
If you're a boulder in the off season, is that what we at best?
I would say boulder or peaking is probably where I would say it would be best. I don't think it makes sense for sport climbers. I don't think it makes sense for speed climbers. I think there's other things that will do it better.
When people talk about, you'll see this with like heroin addicts and meth addicts. They talk about the drug being like an external force on their lives.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how people talk about Tren. That it's like an external force. That, like, Tren needs to be respected. Like, Tren is doing this to me. I am not on Tren. Like, Tren is on me, essentially.
Tren is on me.
It's like this externalization, and that's like sort of the same talk that addicts have about other things. So Tren, I think, is very specifically has some addiction potential, and of course that all runs through the the mu opioid receptor. And that's been shown. I mean, PDs have been shown to affect that brain region. And that's why your other friend was saying, like, it feels like Molly, or I feel so much better on it. And that is like, that's to some degree that's going to cause addiction, not necessarily like a withdrawal period, but some sort of addiction where you don't want to necessarily be off of it.
Yeah.
It's not like, is it affecting your life negatively? Like that, I mean, really the definition of addiction is like a maladaptive behavior that you can't stop that's affecting you negatively.
Yeah.
But, the question is, does it affect you negatively, or can you just glean positives from it and do it, for as long as you want? And Tren is one of those things that basically, no matter how much you use, I think it's going to affect you negatively to some degree, unless you really, really know what you're doing. So Tren kind of fits perfectly into that addiction category, because there's really no safe way to run Tren unless you really, really know what you're doing. And 90% of the population, they're not going to have that down. So that's another thing that I'd say about it.
And even then, it's damage mitigation. It's not damage elimination.
Yeah.
As far as we know, that's not possible.
And we don't know how the magnitude to which we can mitigate the damage. My thought is just that we throw as many neuroprotective things at it at one time, and just hope that 2 or 3 of those work, because we have no data. So like this, like, people will talk in a way where they say like, oh yeah, this is neuroprotective when you take Tren. And it's like, we don't know. That's just mechanism coherent extrapolation. But I figure if you do 6 of them at once, 2 of those are going to work, 3 of those are going to, whatever it is, and you'll hopefully, get some benefit from it in terms of reducing harm. But we don't really know to what, magnitude we can reduce the neurotoxicity, with Tren specifically. So there's that, I guess.
Yep.
Cool. So just to recap for the audience, not just from a personal perspective, but I feel like Tren is an incredibly potent compound, but is the unique benefit to climbers the same that I would get from other athletes such as bodybuilders? I personally think that you could substitute it for safer compounds and get similar, if not better, effects. Is it something that would make you look fucking insane in a calorie deficit? Yes. It would be super cool to get some climbers that are already shredded and lean and then just like throw all the androgens at them. Yes. But would it meaningfully move the needle in their performance versus just adding on another 150 or 200 milligrams of another androgen for that muscle retention? Probably not. I personally would argue that the 200 milligrams of, let's just call it 100 test, 100 mast, additional that you would add in a deficit might even give you more strength than you would get off of the Tren. That's just me extrapolating, but that's my...
And we see this almost in every single sport.
Yeah.
Where anabolic steroids are really only good for sports that require power.
Yes.
So, like, for a sprinter, Tren is probably very useful. Insofar as it doesn't reduce your cardiovascular capacity too much, but you're not that glycolytic, so whatever. But I think like for power sports specifically, like powerlifting, sprinting, those kind of things, you can make an argument for anabolic steroids in high doses. But really, for anything cardio involved, like especially like cycling, they're not. They can't run high doses of anabolics. They physically can't because it will reduce their cardiovascular capacity too much. I mean, those guys are really just on TRT, and the only reason they're on TRT is because their hormones are so screwed up.
Do climbers take EPO?
Take D-ball?
EPO.
They're probably not cardiovascularly fit enough to use it properly.
EPO. I haven't met any climber on EPO. It's not to say that it's never been done. I have speculated for a while that the Chinese athletes are running EPO and growth hormone.
Probably.
A lot of the Chinese doping program revolves around both. Or I don't know if you guys have saw this. This is super neat. In like the mid 2010s, a Chinese whistleblower was like, "Hey, we gave every kid that came through the Chinese Olympic program GH to get them ready for the program." Like over 10,000 athletes. It's fucking crazy. And I don't think
EPO only works well if you're already like premium cardiovascular fitness, and I don't think a climber falls into that category.
I think there are some that can do some pretty crazy shit. Right. Like there are some big wall guys that absolutely fit that category. If you could do 2,000 or 3,000 vertical feet in a day, you were a fucking elite animal at that point.
Yeah, maybe there. Yeah, maybe there would make
some
sense.
of these guys like Magnus Mitbo. He does crazy cardio challenges and does really well. I know you've probably seen him, Adam. Like Norwegian ruck marches, stuff like that. That stuff is no joke.
What's his name again?
Magnus Midball. You've probably seen him. Like, if you wanted to just shift really
guy, right?
briefly. Yeah.
It's crazy, too. I think there was a video where he was just as strong as, like, Larry Wheels on some of these pulling exercises. Despite being, like, half his size.
Maybe.
Which is insane. Like, the pound-for-pound strength that climbers have is unparalleled, I think.
Yeah. It's a really interesting sport because it's all about power to weight ratio, which is
and technique.
Yeah.
All right, I think we could just about call it there. This has been fucking awesome, guys. Thank you so much for taking a little over an hour out of your evening to join me and the climbing community, and also give a very honest and fair critique of the pros and cons of Tren as it relates to climbing. This was a topic that I've sort of touched on, but I think that having some of the experts that have both used it, coached folks through it, discussed and seen some of the issues from the neurotoxicity parts and the cardiovascular stuff, I couldn't think of better people to have this conversation with. So thanks again for being a part of it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having us.
Fun.
Appreciate you having us,
maybe we could run something like this back at another point to either go over restarting some female endocrine systems, going over any other compounds for climbers. But yeah, as always, guys, thanks again. I'm Adam with Anabolic Climbing, wishing you guys good luck and happy sending. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.